Canadian.
Oh, I didn't realize he was Canadian.
Yeah. Dallas Green. Which is funny because that's it was a Phillies GM coach for a long time. But yeah, so he didn't want to use his name because this was a side project. He didn't want to use his name, so he used city and color. But yeah, it was a side project, and I have no idea what his main band was because they faded into oblivion.
Oh,
but yeah, he's super Canadian.
This is we're getting some lovely city and color content. I think that's what the people tune in for, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, 100%. Why else would they come here?
I'm sure.
Dude, I played wiffle ball on Sunday, and I am ridiculously sore right now. Like, you know how
because you're old,
like your remote control on your bed for like your Xbox, but it's like plugged in, and so the cord's in the walkway. I couldn't like step over the cord. I had to move the remote control because that's how sore I am. I couldn't lift my legs that high. It was insane. And I work out every day. I'm finding muscles that I did not know existed.
Huh.
Hashtag FFFitClub.
I stopped listening. So Green, apparently, he was born in St. Catharines, Ontario.
You're just on this guy's Wikipedia.
And he was actually named after Dallas Green. I didn't know that. He was actually named for him because his dad was a gambling degenerate and bet on the Phillies to win the World Series in 1980. And, well, that was their first World Series win.
I love how you make fun of Canadians' grasp of the English language, but you come from a city which calls a team the Philadelphia Phillies.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that's so dumb.
But it's
like the dumbest team name of all time. And we have
You're the dumbest
different teams named the Rough
time.
Riders at one point in the 9-team league.
You are Canadian, and I will have you banned from American YouTube.
Is it YouTube Global? It's for all of us.
Not American. It's like it's American Twitter. Like you're gonna get kicked off of it if you keep it up.
All right, kids, we're gonna start out the show. You guys ready? Let's
do it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Go Canada.
God. This one's already started out great, guys. Here we go.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Hello. Welcome to another awesome Tuesday here on Join Our Circle. In response to Shane's blatant attack on our country, we've decided it is Canada night here on Turn Up Tuesday. We have a lovely Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. What's up, Austin, in the chat? Wayne Gretzky is blessing us. And most importantly, alongside myself and Shane and Chase, we have one of Canada's finest fantasy analysts, Drew Osinchuk, with us. Drew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I feel like that was a pretty good plug, and you just found out I was Canadian about 5.5 minutes ago. So,
okay, you know what?
Way to think on the fly.
How did you not know that? As soon as he said a word, I was like, "Oh, he's a Canuck."
Because it just sounds normal to me, Shane.
That's not how normal people sound, I assure you.
And
that was kind of slanderous, calling him the best Canadian analyst. Like, duh. I mean, pick a real country, like Bangladesh. Like, if he was the best fantasy analyst in Bangladesh, I'd be like, that's impressive.
I think that's where this jersey was made, actually.
Yeah, don't slight him like that. He's a great fantasy analyst.
He says this is where the jersey was made, actually. Oh, my God. Oh, what we got going on tonight, Jacob?
Yeah, so other than what we're already totally off the rails, we're going to be talking about a really, really fun week in the NFL. We're going to be projecting forward. We have a really fun show. We're going to talk about, some draft trade reactions. We had 2 blockbuster trades this week for the 49ers, moving up to the number 3 spot. then Miami moving back up to number 6. We had 2 quarterbacks, both in contention for that 3 spot to their pro day today. So we're going to talk about those 2 for sure. We're going to talk about some other pro day reactions, some overreactions. And we have the founder of the Bulletproof prospect process here. So we're going to find out who are some of the Bulletproof prospects are. If you want to talk about some individual pro days, if you want to talk about some prospects, chime in the comments and we'll get to them. So that's what we got going on. Everybody ready for a good show?
Yeah, real quick, I am going to say big shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion on Facebook. We actually have them in the chat tonight. We were in season with them on a regular basis, and we got to answer all their questions, normally on Wednesday nights. However, I decided to go live in there again tonight, so we have them in there. However, Facebook and I guess, StreamYard, they feud. Like, they butt heads, and I don't know why, but they do. And so we can't see your comments if you're on Facebook right now. So go over to youtube.com/fantasyintervention, hit subscribe. Make sure y'all go in there and ask us all the questions y'all want. Load us up because we got plenty of content to talk about, but we can't. There's never enough. There's just never enough.
Sounds good. Thank you for that. Let's have a fun, interactive show.
Hi,
Let's
Facebook.
Hey, Facebook.
Hi, Facebook.
How you doing, Facebook?
COVID's real, by the way,
Jesus, Jake.
because it's Facebook. So I know that's where a lot of never mind.
What's up? Andrew's in the chat tonight.
What's up,
too.
Parler?
Let's go.
All right. Anyway.
Let's
All
stop
right.
Let's stop being so ridiculous here. Let's get into some fantasy football stuff. All right, guys. Let's keep it professional.
We'll
Thanks,
try
Shane.
to. We'll
That's
try.
your specialty. Let's start it off. Drew, why don't you explain to people who aren't as familiar with your work, who haven't been binging your podcast, what is the Bulletproof prospecting system all about, and how can people find it, and how can you help make people, better dynasty players?
So Bulletproof, hashtag Bulletproof prospect. It's just like a methodical process to go through the prospects, looking at individual statistics or metrics that seem to matter for projecting players from college to the NFL. And I just use, like I said, a systematic, go through each player on each specific metric and see how they look comparatively across the entire population of drafted players since 2003. And then if they look like another player, I kind of think they're probably going to be like that other player. And yeah, that's more or less what it comes down to.
What are some of the metrics that you look at most and that you find most predictive?
So for wide receivers, I use market share receiving yards and yards per team pass attempt adjusted by age. A lot of people are moving to experience adjusting. I'm not there yet because my database isn't set up for it, and I need to get set up to see if it actually will improve my process. I'm not sure that it will or not. We'll see. And then, things like early declare or prospect age, so on and so forth. For running backs, I use Lance Zierlein's grades from NFL.com. His film grades are really, really good. I use Graham Barfield's yards created metric, which is also fantastic. And then, some regular like yards per team attempt and things like that, like the regular data analyst metrics. And then tight end, it's very similar to wide receivers, same kind of idea. And then for quarterbacks, I actually use, I kind of like manipulate a model from Football Outsiders called Cubase. And it's really, really, really good. And I kind of just make some alterations to what their numbers are based on some other stuff that I look at, like age-adjusted PFF grades and things like that. That's the only thing that I use PFF grades for is quarterbacks. And that's kind of where we get to. Oh, and then rushing production obviously is a pretty big factor at the quarterback position nowadays. The Konami code quarterback went from a luxury to a necessity in the last few years. So it's a pretty big part of what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. And maybe for the people that are a little bit less informed than that haven't been following you, what's your hit rate tend to be on these guys that you consider bulletproof?
Varies by position, but like across positions, it's roughly 75% plus. There's not a lot of them though. Like we have like 7 per year, I think, dating back to 2003. So it's not like there's, and to be honest, they're not guys you wouldn't expect. Like it's everyone that you would expect. The thing that Bulletproof or the thing the process identifies is which guys look like they're going to hit pretty much guaranteed And then which guys are the ones that you're like, yeah, that's like a regular first round pick. Like that's a coin flip. And then which guys are like, that guy has no chance. And that's kind of the idea behind it. Bulletproof isn't finding anyone that you don't already know about. It's just eliminating the guys that actually aren't that safe.
And honestly, I think that's like one of the biggest things I found since getting more and more into the analytics community is just, I think we're generally better at figuring out who's bad than figuring out who's good, would be like my estimation. Is I think we're probably better at poking holes, and it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone who fits is going to end up hitting, but that's at least been one of my experiences. Who are some of the guys on the other side that are being talked up, as a really, really strong prospect this year and a lot of mock drafts that you're seeing that you might have some concerns about? And also Chase, Shane, or chat, feel free to come in with any of your comments too. So I'm not hogging up all the time here.
No, it's a Canadian one-on-one thing here. I understand.
We're just chilling in our green shirts, hanging out in America.
There you go. A guy that's probably going to be overdrafted, I would suspect, is Kadarius Toney. He has absolutely no appeal to me at all. And he's probably going to get drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, which is going to pump up his fantasy stock, which is just going to be tragic.
So, Dean, I'm just going to butt in because that's what I do. So he seems to be a guy that the tape community and the metric community are pretty much aligned with. Like, he sucks. Like, I think it's universal, but for some reason he's going to be overdrafted. What is happening?
What do you see? What do you see with this guy?
No. The tape community loves him. The tape community adores this guy.
What did he do?
His ability to stay on his feet, his ability to be able to break tackles, like his physicality that he brings to the position, obviously in the slot, his size. Like the tape community loves him. The analytics community doesn't like him because of the fact that he didn't break out until his senior year, which typically doesn't tend to go well. However, he did have guys
because you shouldn't even make it to your senior year if you're a good wide receiver prospect.
Also, that makes sense.
Did he actually break out in his senior year?
He just got it. He's better than Ruggs. Better than Ruggs.
Good for him. It only took him to be a 25-year-old senior. Good for him.
He's 22 or 23. All right. So, sitting there and looking at it, he's somebody that can be utilized, especially in the slot. Still can play a little bit outside, but he's going to be here in the slot. He's going to be like a better version of Jamison Crowder, more physical, can end up, continuing plays a little bit more. Also a lot tougher than Jamison Crowder, so he should be able to stay on the field, along with the fact that, hey, he's a playmaker. And when they went to him outside, obviously, So
you'll be one of the guys overdrafting him? Drafting him early?
Keep it up. Keep see. There are very few guys that are in like the second round, right? That I get super high on that I miss on. Guys like Gibbs, I was ridiculously high on. Guys like AJ Dillon, I was high on. Unfortunately, Jones came back, so we'll see how it's panning out. But typically, it was sad. But he was in a position to actually break out. So when it comes to this, there's certain people that I fall in love with this mid-range, like this mid-second round range. And I don't miss on him too often, so I'm hoping I don't miss here. But he has all the tools that will make a slot receiver successful. So I think his pro day is tomorrow?
The only reason I know that is because Kyle Pitts, the best wide receiver on that team, the only player that matters from that roster.
What about Kyle Trask?
Who?
Get out of here.
I said, what about Kyle Trask?
Yeah, he is awful, by the way. So I was watching because I'm doing a write-up on Pitts, and Kadarius Toney, I saw him once, by the way, in the highlight reel, and he's great. Kyle Trask is freaking terrible. Like, I just awful. Like, every pass was just like a highlight to show that how good that Pitts is at adjusting the poorly thrown passes. Like, it was almost like he was doing it on purpose. But yes, the pro day's tomorrow because I want to see. I'm worried about Pitts, and I'm gonna love it when Toney comes out there and runs a 4.7 because then the tape guys are gonna just lose it. Like, oh no, it's because I don't know.
He's not gonna run a 4.7.
Wait, he's
running like a 4.5
kill, right?
I think he'll
be no. He'll run like a sub 4.5 tops, but like late 4.4 in my opinion. But that's not what he needs. Like, that's not what he's known for. He's known for being able to get open space and create yards after the catch. Get out with your But we've already covered that.
We have covered it. Hey, look, I didn't know that Drew was going to say Kadarius Toney. I had suspicions, but I didn't know. Who else? And also, hi Angie, how are you doing? And I see Justin Fields 101. Let's talk about that actually, because we'll get a chance to talk about some wide receivers. Let's talk about it. So the 49ers traded up to the number 3 overall selection. And of course, one of the possibilities at that selection could be Justin Fields. So let's just go around and what do you think of that trade? Who do you think they will take? And I think more importantly, who do you think that they should take between Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, or potentially if Zach Wilson gets past the Jets?
You guys want to start it out?
Anyone, feel free.
So we're not going to just be okay. There's too many fucking polite Canadians on the show tonight. Like I'm sitting here because if I know like I'm like a freight train that if I don't stop myself, I'm just going to plow through everyone. So I'll go first. Justin Fields. That's who the pick should be. Or Trey Lance, not Mac Jones. No disrespect to Mac Jones. I understand from what everyone tells me that he's going to be a very good quarterback, I guess, at the NFL level. But Fields or Lance can be special. Fields ran a 4.4 today. Did you see that?
He ran faster than De'Ami Brown.
Yeah. He's fast.
Dude's got wheels on him.
Yeah, it's good.
Drew, what do you think of this pick?
I think that Justin Fields is the second best quarterback in the draft from a fantasy perspective, without a doubt, and potentially in the NFL. I don't see any reason he wouldn't be. I think that Justin Fields has been exceptional at every step of the way. Like he was one of the top high school recruits of all time. He just happened to be paired with Trevor Lawrence, which, kind of ruined a bit of a hype for him there. And then he didn't get to play at Georgia, which is really odd because I don't know what they're doing in Georgia. That was really weird. Anyways, then he goes to Ohio State and he is like exceptional from day one. Like he has let me just check here. For age 20 quarterbacks, I believe he's in the top 2. He is second among PFF graded age 20 quarterbacks in the history of PFF college. That is, they only do, I think 2010 maybe is around when they started. It's only about 10 years, but he's second among first round picks that have PFF grades. Like he's incredible. And then he did the same damn thing the next year. He won 92.4 PFF grade at age 19, 92.2 PFF grade at age 20, and then 92.2 at age 21. So we've never seen him be anything other than exceptional. So I don't know why we would start thinking that he would be less than that now. We've seen, what's his name? Lance. We've only seen Lance play for 1 year, and he wasn't a high recruit to begin with. Played at a low level. It's hard to know what to expect with him. He could have a crazy high ceiling, but he could have a out of the league floor in a few years. And then Wilson, we saw 2 years of complete mediocrity from him. And then one spike year of wow, but that's 1 year. We've never seen Justin Fields be anything other than exceptional.
It's Joe Burrow.
1 year? Yeah. I mean, you got Joe Burrow. Before that, Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, those 1 year guys, there's, yeah. We'll see.
I get it. I 100% agree. And I'm honestly hoping that the Jets actually take Wilson so that they don't ruin a good quarterback's career, So, they should take the 49ers. They should take Justin Fields hands down. However, the rumors coming in about Mac Jones scares the living hell out of me. And it looks really real. That's the worst part about it is I would be sitting here saying there's no way and standing up on a hill being like, you all are crazy. But everything they're saying is there's substance to back it. So it's actually nerve wracking that the 49ers would do that. But I mean, honestly, signing Trent Williams, trying to create this offensive line. Mac Jones is great behind a clean offensive line. However, I thought who they were drafting or who they were moving up to take was Trey Lance. I don't know if that's really the case. I know he's a little bit raw, which is why they would hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo for 1 more year and be able to develop Trey Lance. So it makes it interesting. I think that Trey Lance might possibly have a higher floor, maybe have a higher floor than Justin Fields, but I'm a Justin Fields fan. I'm hoping that he falls all the way to Carolina. So that way I can start arguing with people whether he's the 101 in Dynasty or not over Trevor Lawrence. Because honestly, with that, coaching system, their philosophy that they have, the receiver talent that they have, I mean, you could see, we're talking about a significant liftoff for of course, Justin Fields if he ends up going to Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be boring. I wish this was like I could do like a Stephen A. Smith thing and come in and have a completely different take. But no, I also agree. Like I think Justin Fields is. I actually had to finalize my quarterback rankings today for the Full Tilt podcast that I do with Tom and Billy, and I sat there on my Google Doc for like an hour. I was like, Justin Fields QB1, Trevor Lawrence QB1, Justin Fields. Like it went back and forth. I settled on Lawrence and I put Fields at 1B because I'm a coward. But I feel very confident that Fields should be the pick at 2. It doesn't seem that he will be. So I guess he'll be the pick, I think, at 3. I mean, it's a fantastic landing spot for anybody who goes there to the San Francisco 49ers. They have one of the elite young wide receivers in the game in Brandon Ayuk. Of course, they have an elite tight end in George Kittle. Debo is a really unique weapon, and Kyle Shanahan's a great offensive schemer. I am so confident that it's not going to be Mac Jones that I tweeted this out, and I'll say it live here. At our first live show after the NFL draft, if the 49ers take Mac Jones, I will be touching a 2-liter of all-Canadian Growers cider on air immediately because it just I can't see it. I just can't imagine that the 49ers would look at the situation and say, we need to move up to 3 to take McCorkle. Like, that's his name, Michael McCorkle Jones. That's real, right? Like if they're looking at the draft board, it's like 3 is Miami. Obviously, they're not taking a quarterback. They traded back, right? Atlanta, probably not taking Mac Jones. Probably not taking a quarterback at all. I think they owe Matt Ryan the entirety of the U.S. national debt next year. And then, at 5, we have, who the heck do we even have at 5?
Bengals.
What's their face? Thank you, Bengals. Obviously, they're not taking a quarterback. So
I don't know.
Then you have, maybe in round 7. They'll take Kyle Trask. So at pick 6, you have Philly, who is obviously willing to move back. I don't think that there is any understanding or any reason to think that Mac Jones wouldn't have been available at 6. If they simply wanted Mac Jones, why not just stay at 9 or move up to 6? Why go up to 3? I think you're clearly in a bidding war with the Dolphins to make sure that you get ahead of other teams so you can get probably Justin Fields, maybe Trey Lance. And I love Trey Lance as well. In a lot of other draft classes, I would say he's even a QB1 because I just love his upside so much. But in this class with Fields and with Lawrence, then he sort of falls in that 3 spot for me. But I'm excited for anyone who lands there. Would you meaningfully move up a guy like Lance or Jones up into the top 2 quarterback slots if they landed with the 49ers? We'll start with you, Shane.
No. It's going to be Lawrence, and then it's going to be Fields unless he tumbles, unless somehow he ends up on the Eagles at 12. And then I'll also cry in the corner. But no, it's going to be neither of those guys is moving up to 2 for me.
They don't throw enough. The 49ers don't throw enough. So,
well, I mean, part of that could have been that they had a quarterback whose skill set was not throwing a lot. Like, that's not what he was particularly good at. Because he sucks. But if they have a good quarterback,
that was such a nice way of putting it, right?
You have Kittle, you have Ayuk, you have Debo. Like that's a pretty dangerous trio. Like if you actually wanted to throw the ball a little bit, you could do some damage with those 3.
Yeah, if we're talking about like do the 49ers or does Kyle Shanahan run a lot? If you go back his entire career, he's like a league average run pass ratio guy. He's a league average league average seasonal pass attempts guy. Like he had 1 year of really low rush attempts 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl with maybe the best defense in football and a bad quarterback with no weapons other than George Kittle. So I don't think that they necessarily aren't going to run a lot or they're not going to pass a lot. I think they're going to pass league average because that's what Kyle Shanahan's done for 15 years now. So in my opinion, it's going to be fine. And especially if they get an actual good quarterback. Like when he had good quarterbacks in the past, he threw a lot of footballs. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess. But for me, nobody's moving into 102 other than Justin Fields. He's the only guy that's going to be there unless he tumbles into the latter half of the first round or something like that. That's crazy. But that's just probably very much not going to happen. So yeah, Justin Fields will be my quarterback too, barring catastrophe.
Let's do a quick question here from Jakob in the chat. First of all, fantastic name, Jakob. Great work by your parents there. He says, what about comparing this quarterback class with the Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield class I'm assuming wants to know sort of would we prefer this quarterback class or that quarterback class? What say you folks? Do you take that QB class, which I guess was 2017? Maybe you're wrong, 2018, whatever it was. That class or this class? Which one would you take?
We didn't even have any idea of what that class was because we had it Mayfield, Rosen, Darnold, Jackson, Allen. So in 3 years, because I have no idea. Just like I didn't know then, clearly. I liked Lamar. I made fun of Josh Allen, and I loved Rosen. So there's that.
No, I think that, he was sitting there asking, like, who's who. So comparing the players, essentially. Okay. So, like, for example, Darnold is I just had a brain fart. Zach Wilson, right? We have Allen could be Trevor Lawrence, essentially, although Trevor Lawrence, I think, is infinitely better. Jackson could be either Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I don't know if we have a Mayfield of this class, but if it is, like, I think it's Mac Wilson. Jones. I think Mac Jones is a mix between Rosen and Mayfield.
I always struggle with comps. I actually have Mayfield as my Zach Wilson comp. Although Mayfield produced earlier, but then he transferred and then he produced later. So he was kind of weird. But in terms of just the play style, in terms of that, like, mobility in the pocket, but not actually running a whole lot. Beyond that, like, I don't know if we have Darnold Rosen comps. Like, I think that these guys are mostly better prospects, in my opinion, than Darnold Rosen. Maybe Mac Jones is kind of in that bucket, at least as prospects. I don't know. Lamar Jackson, I guess Fields is probably the closest comp in terms of that. But Lamar Jackson's so unique. I don't love just putting the Lamar on people. Anyone else got any sort of comp in this class?
I honestly feel like he's trying to ask, like, which one will produce similar to the stats that are up there for these players. Not necessarily asking, like, direct comparisons.
I think we're clear. We think Lawrence is going to be a Hall of Famer. Justin Fields, we expect to be a top 12 quarterback. Trey Lance has that upside, but he also has the downside of Jamarcus Russell, whatever his name was. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, because he flamed out after 2 years. And then Mac Jones, I don't want to slight him. I don't want to slight Kirk Cousins and say, like, Kirk Cousins upside, because Kirk Cousins is really good. I don't think he has that upside. And then Zach Wilson, I don't know, anywhere between Mitch Trubisky and Joe Burrow. How's that?
Sounds like a good range.
I'm just using completely different draft classes than the ones he brought up. I don't care.
I think it's just because there was 5, so it's easy to compare to it.
Let's quickly just cover the other side of this trade. So the Dolphins moved back up from 12 to 6 with the Eagles. So probably on the whole, this looks pretty good for Tua and for Hurts in terms of, there were some whispers that they might not be the starters for 2021. You'd think Hurts is absolutely locked in now, and you wouldn't expect the Dolphins to have moved back if they were taking a quarterback. How do you feel about Tua and Hurts moving forward? And which one would you prefer out of those two?
For me,
I was gonna fucking talk all night. Okay, fine. I was already fine with Tua all offseason. I loved him. I was buying him everywhere. I loved that everyone was like, "Oh, Miami's not really that into him," because everything they've done has shown that they're really into that dude. Everything they've said has come across as they're really into that dude.
They're in love.
Brian Flores might love him. That's fine. He didn't have a bad rookie season. Everyone keeps saying that he did because they're not that bright. But dude, I love it. Will Fuller. Now they can get themselves Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase, right? Well, assuming Jamar makes it.
They already have an elite tight end in Mike Gesicki.
Kyle Pitts is a tight end in name only, dude. He's going to be running so many routes from the X position that it's going to be sickening. And when he drops 40 points on someone in your league's going to be bitching like he's not even really a tight end, and you're going to be like, I don't care. I drafted him in a tight end premium league. Your fault. You could have done it and you didn't because you're stupid. Anyway,
I took a fit today.
Tua, love Tua. Jalen Hurts he's got a chance, right?
You would take Tua over Hurts, is what you're saying.
By leaps and bounds and elk rides, yes.
All right. Hey, let's get
Caribou.
Drew. What do you think? Are you on Team Tua or on Team Hurts here? And what do you think of these deals?
I'm easily on Team Tua as well. I think that I actually just recorded an episode or a segment for my podcast that goes on Thursday on Tua Tagovailoa yesterday. So I am quite well versed in my opinion on Tua Tagovailoa right now. I think that Shane is absolutely right. Like, people are down on him for absolutely illogical reasons. He wasn't bad when you compare him to other quarterbacks that are rookies. He was bad compared to his class of quarterbacks that were rookies, which were phenomenal. And he was bad compared to NFL quarterbacks, because rookies are always bad when you compare them to NFL quarterbacks. You need to compare apples to apples, compare across rookie seasons. Tua was completely fine. There's no flag there. And yeah, so, and then like the other side of it is like, you know, you were just saying that everything they've done has been pro Tua. Like, they put Tua in during a playoff run. A team in a playoff run said, you know what? Our quarterback's playing the best football of his career. You know what? Take a seat, get Tua in here. Let's go. And then when they ran into trouble late in games, they're like, you know, maybe we could use a little spark. They put him back in. And then after the game, they didn't do that BS about like, oh, we need to review the film and, you know, consult with the other coaches and see who's going to be the starter. They're like, Tua's a man. Tua's a starter. He's coming out he's starting the next game. Don't worry about it. Like, every time that they had an opportunity to not do Tua, they said, we're going Tua. Now they've traded back, indicating that they're going, in my opinion, wide receiver or tight end with their 6th overall pick. They're like, there's no way that they're taking a quarterback now. If they could get Deshaun Watson, I would, like, before all the legal issues, I would have been like, okay, I get it. Like, Deshaun Watson's another level. But yeah, and then Jalen Hurts, I don't know. He like isn't that good in my opinion. He's like a really, really, really bad version of like Lamar Jackson, which I mean could still be fine for fantasy. I think that he'll probably be like my comp for him right now is Colin Kaepernick, which I think is like, you know, a pretty good fantasy starter, but he's not going to be a long-term NFL starter by any stretch. So, you know, you can get some usable weeks out of him for the next year or maybe 2 if they decide to extend the experiment one more year. But yeah, I'm out on Hurts. That's where I'm going with that.
That's 2 votes to a Chase. Where are you at here? I think I'm against the grain on this one.
No, honestly, like we just had Matt B actually comment saying he was on the Hurts side, and I don't hate the Hurts side. I think it's decent, but indications from the salary cap along with the moves that they made show that the Eagles are going to try and win for probably another year or 2. If it doesn't actually come to fruition, they're probably going to go into a strict rebuild, which means that Hurts is just going to be pretty much in the gutter. I want to say that Howie Roseman has a track record of actually drafting defensive players when they're about to go into a rebuild. Plus, the Eagles need defensive players. So I think in the first couple like rounds, they're going to be drafting safeties or linebackers, whatever the case is, to try and re-up on some of these bigger contract players they have coming up over the next few years. Or offensive line, if offensive line, you know, suits them best at the time they draft. You know, they traded back to grab more picks for the future. I think this is like a significant rebuild right now. And honestly, like Hurts, he could be better for the next year or 2, but long term, to your point, Drew, like I don't see, you know, Hurts being a long-term option at quarterback. And I think I'd rather have 2 at that point because I think that he is. I think the coaching staff is protecting him, and I think he's going to be phenomenal following this upcoming year. I don't know that he's going to be phenomenal this year, but I think he's going to be really good after that.
Here's where I disagree. Okay,
wait, we have somebody raising their hand.
Yeah, I want to jump in, and I don't want this to become like a Hurts bash session. I think
I haven't gotten my chance yet. I will defend Jalen Hurts. Yeah, so you go ahead.
I just like Tua as compared to Hurts. I think Hurts could be easily a top 10 quarterback. I think that's in his range of outcomes. I just feel more confident that Tua Tagovailoa is gonna. That's for you, Jacob.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Matt. I know that you're actually Matty, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I love Jalen Hurts, and this really is a philosophical thing for me. Like, to be honest, I feel pretty confident in my abilities to project running backs and wide receivers. Quarterbacks, they're voodoo to me. Like, it's tougher in terms of finding correlative data to me. It's tougher to separate the quarterback from the scheme in college. So I come in to most quarterback evals in the NFL with priors that are far less entrenched than I do with running backs and wide receivers and even tight ends. So to me, when I look at the rookie season, I mean, I think we saw flashes from both. I see Jacobs in the chat saying Tua had a higher completion percentage than Baker's rookie season. That checks out to me. I'm not perturbed on either of these guys, and I'm actually buying Tua more recently than I am selling Tua. However, one of the big things I'm always saying is that quarterback scarcity to me is overstated, even in superflex leagues, and that quarterback longevity to me is also vastly overrated and overstated. So to me, I want the guy who's going to be, top 5 upside potentially. And with Tua, he's mobile-ish, but he doesn't have that crazy rushing upside. They have a fantastic defense building in Miami. They have a defensive-minded head coach. I just don't see a world in which Tua is providing you a big ceiling. I think he's more high-end QB2, and I expect him to be that for a long time. With Hurts, maybe it dissolves into nothing. But whatever. I'll have some Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold guy stacked on my bench that can sub in and be my QB2 one year if need be, and I'm always going to have a lot of extra picks. With Hurts, at least I have a shot at top 5 upside. And in terms of his rookie year, like he came in, he got 0 reps all year. You don't get reps as the backup quarterback in the NFL. Had to step in for another dude, run another dude's offense, and he did pretty darn well. I mean, his completion percentage is a little low, but he actually pushes the ball downfield, right? With Tua, his completion percentage is higher, but he was playing a lot closer to the line of scrimmage. So with Hurts, I'm not going to say it's no risk. It's certainly a risk, but I'm just not that scared of losing the bet on a quarterback. I want to chase that upside, and so I'm personally chasing that with Hurts a little bit more. That being said, with Hurts, of course, they now have 322 firsts, and their team is a rotting crater of sadness and depression. So if they suck this year, I mean, they could do whatever they want in 2022, and that's certainly the risk. Anyone else got anything on that? Otherwise, I want to try and pivot to some of these other pro days and some takes on some of this upcoming rookie class here as we get into the thick of pro day season.
Pivot.
Yeah, let's go before we get stuck here forever, for all eternity.
All right.
We can do that.
Absolutely. Okay, so if anyone has any prospect that they want us to talk about here, especially one that's already had their pro day, feel free to toss that in the chat. Otherwise, for anyone that's been out of the loop, Chapel Hill, apparently there's a 30-mile wind in everyone's face. Everyone ran slow. Elijah Moore ran great. Rondale set the world on fire. Alabama prospects decided, working out wasn't for them. Wilson goes viral with all of his throws. Fields matched it, and Mac Jones, a little bit of struggles. In general, do you guys care about pro days? Let's just start there. And then who's one where you have a real takeaway from if you got one? Chase, you have a hand up. Why don't you let us know? And I see Elijah Moore in the chat. We'll talk about him for sure.
Why didn't they just switch the direction they were running in at Chapel Hill?
Then it would have been wind aided, and it wouldn't have counted when you broke the world record.
Oh, I don't know if there was any win. This is like my ongoing joke. Like, it might be. Okay. This is just like just because everyone was so slow that I choose to believe that there was like some sort of gust because everyone else has been like exosed into eternity where, we have like freaking Tylan Wallace running a 4.3 and all of a sudden these North Carolina guys that come in with like actually reasonable human times. It was very weird.
But his time wasn't bad though. Javonte Williams.
No, they're still under the average, I believe, right?
Yeah. He was still in the threshold of where you want a running back to be. Honestly, I don't. How often does a running back get to just use a straight line speed? Like, if he has 4.3 speed, does it matter? Does it matter if he's 4.4 versus 4.5?
Ask Justice Hill because I'm still hurting from that one.
I don't want to talk about Justice Hill.
I mean, historically, yes.
I love Justice Hill.
Right, like historically, it is correlative. Where I wouldn't say it's I consider it a ceiling raiser. Like. Okay. I still think Javonte Williams is a really strong prospect. He's certainly a top 3 running back in class, and I think that he will get solid draft capital. So I'm not concerned. However, I think the history of running backs that look like Javonte Williams, where their speed score is not, in that 75th to 80th percentile and up, but more in the 60s range, we'll see exactly what the official 40 time ends up being, where they have, more burst and speed and with less than, incredible receiving numbers. That's usually an RB2 profile to me, which is fine. I mean, there can only be 12 RB1s every year. You shouldn't expect 3 or 4 from every single draft class. I don't know if I see this huge upside that warrants taking them like in the top 5 of the super flex draft. At this point, I'd just rather take the quarterbacks. I'd rather take Jamar Chase. I'd rather take Pitts. So I think like he's fine, but I just don't know if I see like huge RB1 ceiling. I don't know if anyone differs on that.
Yeah, but nobody was taking him in the top 5 picks. Honestly, he's a 111, 112 type of guy, right? In Superflex, I think that's where he falls to, if not a little later. I can't imagine anyone in their right mind is taking him over Najee or Etienne or Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts. And if you are, you're not in your right mind. So don't do that.
Drew, what do you think of Javonte? And if the time works into it at all, and however else he grades out in your process?
So I'll just touch on, originally you had said, do I value pro days? That was the original question. I do and I don't. It depends on the position. I do value 40 times at the running back position to some extent. But honestly, like I had just done this a while ago and I never actually shared it with anyone. But when I'm looking at round 1 to 3 running backs, and I just put them in buckets for speed. So at 4.35 and under, this is only round 1 to 3. 2 out of 4 have hit a top 12 season. 4.36 to 4.45 is 7 out of 12, 41%. 4.46 to 4.55, 39%. 19 out of 48. 4.55 to 4.65, 8 out of 21, 38%. Like the mid tiers, like basically they're all the same, right? Like it's 38 to 43%, basically. There's no difference in how fast these guys run as to whether or not they hit. I think where the difference comes in is like the perennial hits, when you have like the Saquon Barkley who hits every year, and the Christian McCaffrey, and like those guys. And even Christian McCaffrey wasn't that fast. I think he ran like a 4.48 or somewhere thereabouts. But anyways.
Sorry, you said whereabouts.
thereabouts.
It's just a
4.48.
About. There's no.
How do you guys say it? Because it sounds normal to me.
We say it correctly. And remember, if you ever need grammatical lessons, you take it from the guy from Philly. Okay?
So for Javonte, I don't really care what he ran. Like I think that what he ran was what I kind of expected him to run. Like he seems like a tackle breaker. Like PFF like has him really highly ranked because he like breaks tackles, which they have like such a type. Like if you look at the PFF grades over the last several years, like the running back 1 this year is Javonte Williams. The running back 1, I remember David Montgomery was the running back 1 2 years ago. Zach Moss was the running back 1 last year. It's like this plotter type that just breaks tackles is their guy. It's so predictable, and PFF grades are really useless when you're projecting running backs to the NFL. So it's really senseless, but it's funny.
I love that you're making
particular type.
I love that you're making fun of the broken tackles. Because I love that too. It's like, well, why do you have to break so many tackles? Like, can't you elude anyone?
I like running backs who don't get caught.
Yeah.
Don't get tackled.
He's like loaded way down on the list because he's super elusive and no one's getting a fucking hand on him. I want that guy, not the guy that's like running through 7 tackles to get 4 yards.
Yeah, totally.
I like Javonte, but my comp for him has been Chris Carson. Now it's funny that it seems like they ran the exact same 40 time, but just as a guy who's like burstier than he is, elite speed, breaks a lot of tackles. Yeah, well, burstier. He's got good burst, not elite speed. Bursty. He's a bursty dude. I like
dudes that burst.
Oh yeah, he's burst all the time. And on PFF is bursting just watching him. Anyway, I think like he's a guy who's going to give you a lot of serviceable production. What about Michael Carter? I see a comment in the chat here. What about size for Carter? He's not that small and looks electric. I kind of feel a little bit of the opposite, actually. I think Carter, I hold to a higher standard in terms of his speed because I'm all about size-adjusted speed, right? Javonte Williams, he supposedly played at 220, weighed in at 212, but at least he's in that clear feature back range. I don't care if he runs 4.5s that much. Carter's in the 4.5s that I think he weighed in at 201. What do you guys think of Michael Carter and realistically what his ceiling is and why is it not Devin Singletary?
I'm not into him. Sorry, not my guy. I'm not into any of the running backs this year. I don't mind Travis Etienne. I think he's a good player. After that, I'm just out on the running backs, and especially after the top 3. After the top 3, I want nothing to do with these running backs.
I'm buying
Chase or Shane. Either of you guys have any love for Michael Carter?
No, not even. I don't care about him. Like I legitimately don't care about him. I'm sure I'll draft him somewhere in the end of some second round because I'll go, yeah, sure, why not? He could be a thing, I guess, but I don't expect them to be.
No, he's a backup somewhere. He's just, a complimentary back, but I mean, his agility score was great. His, overall, when it came to, his footwork and everything. I expect him to be able to make some moves and whatnot. But when it comes to being a starter, he reminds me of a roster clog. Where you draft him and then he ends up taking up a spot on your roster because you're expecting him to have some sort of breakout because he has like 1 or 2 big games or even 1 or 2 big plays per game, but he never actually gets there. I think he's better than Devin Singletary, to be honest with you. But
sure, I do too. He's better pass catcher.
I don't think that he's going to end up in a role where he can actually be a lead back. So that's what concerns me more than anything. I wouldn't be shocked to see him in Arizona, to be honest.
I feel like you were just describing Alexander Madison. Like, he has the big game here and there, and then just take the roster spot for 3 years, and then you're like, I guess it was worth it.
Madison sucks, though. Like, I don't think Carter sucks. He's just boring.
I don't think they're really any different. I think they both suck.
I think Carter's at least a better pass catcher than Madison, but
fair.
I think Carter's like just a guy who's like a good NFL player. I just don't think he matters for fantasy.
I think you're pretty much like nickel and dominant, but I mean, I feel like they're pretty close to a similar player, although I think Michael Carter might be a little bit more electric. Meanwhile, Madison might be a little bit more consistent.
I wasn't meaning like a play style comp. You were just like, he like sits on your bench and off the quad for 3 years. Like, that's Alexander Madison, man.
It's
right next to Nico Hardman.
Like Deion Lewis. Like, yes, everybody that ends up just taking up a roster spot, it's another one of those, and you're going to waste a draft pick on him. I'm personally probably going to stay away from him as far as I can.
All right, that's the Carter section. Last UNC guy, De'Ami Brown. How do you feel about De'Ami Brown in general? And were you a little disappointed that he didn't live up to his Instagram story weight of 199? Let's start with Drew and go from there.
That was a really big letdown for me. Honestly, the weigh-ins are the most important part of the pro days for me. I find that, we can tell a lot about the player's role from their size. And his role being super light probably locks him into like a field stretcher type role, which isn't terrible, but it's also not exactly high ceiling. It's like, if he hits, he's going to be a wide receiver too. He's just probably never going to have a wide receiver one season, which really isn't that exciting at the wide receiver position because like wide receiver 15 through 45 are basically the same guy. So he's in that if he hits. I love him other than that, but now that he's only 187? Is that what he was? Somewhere thereabouts.
189.
189?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him a lot more when I thought he was 197. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I was so let down by he hyped it up on his Instagram stories. I'm never falling for another Instagram prospect again. Chase or Shane, do you guys have any strong takes on De'Ami?
Literally none. What was his breakout age?
19, I believe.
He was pretty good.
He's pretty solid analytically.
He's the one with the insane hands, right?
Sure.
I don't have my notepad with me. He's got insanely soft hands. Like he looks like he's catching eggs every time a pass is thrown his way.
How do you measure that?
You measure that by throwing him eggs and seeing if he can catch them.
Yeah, he drove down to Chapel Hill. He's like, here, eggs.
Yeah, and he's literally driving past in a car going about 50 miles an hour, and he still caught an egg without breaking it. It's pretty insane. I'm telling you, like it was nuts. Wide receiver one. No, I'm not a big fan of De'Ami Brown, to be honest with you. I think that he could have a role as a gadget type player, which always scares me when it comes to drafting a player like that, because once again, you talk about a roster clock. He probably has more upside for me than like a Michael Carter, I guess. They'll probably go right around the same area draft spot, I'm guessing. This year is so hard to tell, but not having the weight and the size, and running what he ran like a 4.4,
4.46, I believe, which is slower than we thought.
Yeah, that's going to be rough. Kind of reminds me of like the hype behind Jalen Reagor and all the work that he got, and how it's never going to translate to the NFL.
You shut your stupid mouth.
Thanks, man. All right, we got a request for some Elijah Moore talk from a couple of folks. Elijah Moore came in very small. I think he weighed 174.59. So I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm only wrong slightly. Very small dude.
You're either wrong or you're right. Okay.
If you want to be more correct about it,
Shane would say.
Coming out of Ole Miss, small dude, super productive dude. Runs a 4.35. If adjustments are your flavor, you can call it a 4.4. If they aren't your flavor, you can keep it a 4.35. Either way, fast, small, productive. What do you guys think of Elijah Moore? This time, let's start with you, Shane.
I don't care. If you're not going to be elite,
we're on a show where we're supposed to care about our audience.
So here's my thing about fantasy. If you're not elite, I don't give a shit about you, because Drew just hit it earlier, like when he was talking about the wide receivers, 15 through whatever, the same guy. Literally every position's like that after a certain tier. Like quarterbacks, it's like after the first 9, 10 guys, it's like, I don't care. You're all the same dude. Running back. Oh, I stopped giving a shit at running back 14. Just, I don't care. I mean, whatever. I'm sure I'll draft him when he's on the board because he'll be the best player available. He'll flash one game. Somebody on Twitter next year will tell you that he's the wide receiver 1, and then I'll trade him and try to get an actual elite asset. So sorry for being all bitter. You guys can actually give real,
Great. Shane, we just lost 9 viewers.
Nice. Big Elijah Moore room. Big Elijah Moore.
Oh, God. Drew, you're going to have to go before me because I'm going to lose the rest of them.
Say something good about Elijah Moore, please.
So I do like Elijah Moore. I don't
Thank God.
I'm with Shane in that he probably doesn't matter, but I do think that he's probably a long-term producer in the NFL, which is, something that I like. I can at least plug him into my lineup in a flex spot or something. Like I can get startable weeks out of him, but yeah, he's never going to make a difference for your fantasy team in terms of will he win you a league? Absolutely not. He's way too small. 5'9", 178 is what I have him down at, but maybe I got the wrong. Like the really annoying thing about these pro days is that you go on Twitter and it's like there's 7 different measurements for each guy. There's 17 different 40 times. It's like I don't know which one's right. So I picked one and went with it. I had a 5'9", 178 for 26.3 BMI. So he's like thick enough, but he's like so short and so light that it doesn't really matter. The thing that I did like about him was that he has like an elite relative athletic score. Like it's crazy high. He's a super athlete, even for his size. Like he's super athletic, even at that tiny size. So that is, appealing to some extent. I don't know if he's going to get enough draft capital that I'm really going to be all that interested in him. If he goes maybe on day 2, I'll be interested. Round 2, I'd be quite interested in drafting him at his ADP. Like Shane said, if I can draft him and then I can, he has a wide receiver 2 season, I can flip him. I'd be open to it. He's not a guy I'm going to want to roster forever on my roster, more than likely. But I think he's got a good shot at least returning value for the draft pick that you're going to spend on him.
I have a major concern with him. He can't get off the line of scrimmage in press coverage. Like he can't. His first step is absolutely terrible. The only way that they actually get him open is by running him through the backfield, not even motioning him. Like if he deals with the motion and it's still press coverage, man to man, he can't get off the line of scrimmage. So he's going to have to end up with a team where that team feels like it's necessary to put him in a position to win in order to move the offense. Right. And I don't know that there's a team like that exists right now. Like we could, I don't know. Like if he ends with Arizona, which I think is very likely, as a field stretching option, maybe he plays out of the slot a little bit.
Everyone to Arizona?
No, but I'm just saying, I think it's a very real possibility. No, but they don't
36.
They don't motion
in Chase's world.
They don't even use Christian Kirk in the right position there. I don't trust that they're going to use Diami Brown correctly.
Wait, we're talking about Moore, right?
Elijah Moore. They're all the same too.
It's all the same. It's literally all the same.
Sorry, Moore.
Little guy. I like Elijah Moore. I mean, like I have him. He keeps kind of moving up because other guys disappoint me. So he's currently at wide receiver 7 for me, but that's like about the cap where I can put, a guy like him. I mean, he's super productive. Like in terms of just like production quality, one of the best in the class outside of the really obvious guys. I don't like his size, but I don't know. I'm okay with it. Like I think there's a pretty decent chance you get a top 24 wide receiver in Elijah Moore. Don't love the odds of a top 12 out of Elijah Moore.
Let me ask you this. So your wide receiver of the 2021 rookie class is worth what? What is he? The wide receiver what overall? 50? 55?
Elijah Moore, it's probably like 40-ish for me, 40 to 45 range, something like that. He'd be like, I'll take him over the guys like Pittman and Mims who like didn't really do anything in their first year.
What? You
what?
Get Pittman's name out your mouth.
Yeah, dude, come on.
I don't like Pittman. I'm a Colts fan. It's sacrilegious. I thought he was a brutal prospect, and he's a possession receiver that can't catch. I just don't. I'm not into it.
All right,
I'm with you. I'll take Elijah Moore over Michael Pittman because Elijah Moore is going to hit. It's just not going to be great. He's going to be a player. Michael Pittman's going to be out of the league in 3 years.
Oh,
thank you, Drew. Let's all right. We got to wrap this up pretty quick here, Drew. Let's leave off with this. Who's a guy that we haven't really talked about tonight that fits? Maybe he's not bulletproof because I know that you said that those are a lot of the opposite guys. So you can either go with I think you call him coin flip alpha or a bulletproof guy. But who's a guy who has a really strong production profile and everything that you look at that you think is going to be deeply undervalued in rookie drafts?
I really like two guys at their current prices. I
talk about two
of them. Amon-Ra St. Brown is someone that I find quite appealing. He just hit my alpha thresholds though, so he's not like a super alpha by any stretch. Just made it, and he's a bulletproof player. Like he produced every year that he was in college. He's fine. Probably going to get day 2 draft capital. Hopefully round 2. We'll see. And then the other guy that I'm enthralled with is Seth Williams. And I get that he doesn't look very good on film. And that's not I don't think that he has a high floor by any stretch, but I think that if he hits, it's going to be huge. He's a monster. So I really like Seth Williams in the middle of 3rd round, which is I think where he's going in Superflex drafts right now. He is a coin flip alpha for me, but I think he's on the lower end of the coin flip alphas. When you look at film grades and stuff, they're not good for him. So that is very concerning. He may not even get round 3 draft capital, which completely takes him off my board. So we'll see. Right now, I like him. May 1st, I might not like him that much anymore.
That was the pro day when he ran 4.45, right? That's what did it.
No, before I liked him he broke out as a freshman. I've liked him since he broke out as a freshman.
He reminds me a little bit of T. Higgins in a weird way.
That's a very good comp, I think. They're big. They don't pop on film. Nobody was out here saying that T. Higgins is, this great separator or anything. They're just hey, he wins because he's big and he's good and that's fine. He's not exceptional, but he's first year breakout. Just like Seth Williams. He's big. He's a first year breakout. If he gets draft capital, I'm really into it.
It reminds me of N'Keal Harry, to be honest with you. But
that's a good comp.
But it's just
a good comp in a bad way.
No, that's kind of how I feel. I remember N'Keal a couple years ago was the guy where I was okay, analytically, this guy's a dreambout, but I kind of think he sucks when I watch him. And that's kind of how I feel about Seth Williams. So if everyone thinks he sucks, I'll take him because at the end of the day, I trust the numbers more than I trust my eyes. But if there's other guys whose numbers I like, I'd probably take them over Seth, who I just think looks not great to me. But I think that's great. And Amon-Ra, another interesting guy.
I think the biggest thing with Seth Williams, real quick, is the fact that he's going as late third round prospect in rookie drafts, maybe early 3rd. So the investment's practically nothing. You could end up with a T. Higgins-esque. I'm not saying he's T. Higgins, but a T. Higgins-esque player. So I think that the upside of the return is solid enough to be able to draft him in that round.
I fully agree with that. And the best part is the Bo Nix effect.
If he hits, he could be into the wide receiver 1 conversation. That's where his ceiling is. He could matter. Where a lot of the guys that are going ahead of him, even if they hit, they don't matter. So at his cost, I think he's just a smash selection for me.
All right, so go get Amon-Ra St. Brown. Go get Seth Williams if you want to be riding with Drew this year. Who, Shane? You're not getting them?
I'm getting them. Don't you?
You're getting them?
Yeah, no, you can't have.
All right, well, if you're in a league with Shane, no Sun God for you, no Seth Williams for you. Otherwise, if you want to ride with Drew with the Bulletproof prospect method, go and target those couple of guys. All right, let's end it here. Drew, where can we find you?
You find me on Twitter at DF Bean Counter, and then I got a podcast out now. It's Bulletproof Fantasy Football. I think we're on episode 7, maybe. It's pretty new. I'm still getting used to it, so bear with me as I go through the growing pains of learning how to podcast. And then you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/bulletproofff.
Thanks so much. And just for anyone that wants to check it out, it's fantastic. I had one night where I was just gaming, and I was I'm going to just listen to all of the episodes because they're really quick. They're really informative. They move along at a great pace. And I've tried podcasting solo before. It's hell. So The fact that you entertain me while speaking alone into a microphone for a 20, 30 minutes episode is fantastic and a lot of great information. So check that out. Shane, where can we find you?
Well, I want to commend Drew for having the podcast with a Canadian, because I know what that's like. And that is hell. No, you should share that link, Drew. Can you share it in the chat somewhere? We should share it because I'm always looking for new podcasts and it's fairly new. So I'll check you out. I figure if I speed it up, you won't sound as Canadian, but that's okay.
Listen to it at 1.5?
1.5 times at minimum.
1.2. 1.2, because I don't want to have to rewind it and then hear you say a boot like 36 times. Whatever. I'm on Twitter at Shane is the worst, writing at DLF, do a YouTube Mannequin Chill with Scott Connor, Dynasty Trades HQ, and this show. Other than that, not much.
Shane's the best promoter out there. I don't know if you guys have met Shane, but he should do all the promotions for your company. He's available for hire.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get a recording done by Shane, please contact Shane because he will record your advertisement for your company.
Please do the math for me. Math hurts my brains.
Oh my God! All right.
Chase, where can we find you? And we just double shared the podcast there. Me and Chase shared it, but you got it twice.
No, that's actually that's all you. It shares to both places, but it's all good. Yeah, no, you guys find me at ff_intervention. I'm gonna start writing here a little bit more often very soon. We've been working on some charts and some things behind the scenes over at Fantasy Intervention, so it's been very strenuous to an extent because we had a bunch of projects rolling, then we had content season, then we had making sure we had everything like lined up. Now we're working on things for behind the scenes with our charts and everything, and now we get to focus on the draft. So I'm very, very excited to get some of these articles out myself, and I'm excited. ff_intervention and join our circle _ fantasyintervention.com, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. I could go all night.
All right. You can find me ff_TDB. Haven't been running a bunch lately. I am in the middle of law school prep for exams. So that's been taking up all my life, but stuff is coming. We're grinding. And I see sweet Marner jersey. There we go. Thanks, Ben. And you can find me, like I said, ff_TDB. You'll be able to find my stuff on Join Our Circle on Player Profiler. And it's been swell. Thank you so much, Drew, for coming on. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Chase, as always. Go Canada, go. And thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week. Have a good one.